all he's shown us is greatness, and I don't think that him losing diminishes anything. He's still the featherweight champion of the world.
Great by name, great by nature. Volkanovski beat the brakes of the best of them.
I'm gonna take that belt.
Ilia Topuria is the real deal.
Ilia Topuria is a real assassin.
Hey, what is up, guys? It is Lucky Punch Sports, and today we're going to be going over UFC 298 with my predictions as it takes place this Saturday. And our first fight on the card is a middleweight matchup between Anthony Fluffy Hernandez and Roman Chase Hooper Kopylov. A number 14 versus a non-ranked fighter. Hernandez is 5-2 in the UFC. Two Chase Hoopers, or Russian Chase Hoopers, 4-2, and a striker versus BJJ, a classic matchup. Both guys are 30 and 32 respectively, and it would be a close matchup with Hernandez as the 180 favorite, but I think Hernandez can display his grappling here. He has a lot of submission victories, and he should join the upper rankings of the middleweight division and avoid the upset here, whereas Kopylov should get his first established win, show off his raw power, and start his run right up the rankings. I think this will be a great matchup, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hernandez can submit Roman, or if Roman can go right back and KO Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And our second matchup is already a huge fight in the bantamweight 135 division between the number 2 ranked Merab Dvalishivi versus the number 3 ranked Henry Triple C Cejudo, the Machine versus Triple C, and both of these guys are older, 33 and 37, but on a lot of other cards, this could even be a main event or a co-main event. Two big wrestlers. Merab set the division record, or the UFC record at that, for takedowns attempted, which is absolutely insane how many he goes for. But I think he should mix it up. Don't just go for the takedowns. He's 9-2, Cejudo's 10-3. Cejudo is an underrated UFC fighter, had a huge career with a lot of wins. Both of these guys have recently lost, as Cejudo lost to Merab's best friend Aljamain Sterling, but I think Merab should push the pace and the cardio and go for the belt after this against O'Malley or Cheeto on 299, whereas Henry Cejudo should remind Merab of his wrestling pedigree, an Olympian wrestler, and he shouldn't pretend to be a great striker. He's not. He should stick to his guns, stick to wrestling, stay vigilant, stay aware of Merab's takedown attempts, and stay smart and win a smart fight on the ground, hopefully for a decision. And now we have another huge matchup between Jeff Hands of Steel Neal versus Ian the Future
He cold. She belongs to the streets.
Garry, a welterweight bout between the number 8 and the number 10th ranked fighter. So guys similar in the rankings at 7-3 versus 6-0 for Garry, a striker versus an all-around MMA specialist, and a 33-year-old versus a 26-year-old prospect. And speaking of that prospect, Ian Garry needs to regain his hype. At one point in time, he was getting compared to McGregor. He was one of the most promising and hyped up prospects, but he lost all of his PR. He lost everything with the whole wife thing, being sick.
Jeff Neal is pulling out.
Okay, why? The moment you said that, you sent that message, I knew it. Jeff Neal's a bitch.
Pulling out. He lost a lot of steam there, so this will be the fight against a very good opponent to get his steam and get the ball rolling again. And he should show off his striking again. Against Neil Magny, he had great striking, and he really shows against a good fighter, someone who beat Jeff Neal, how much he dominated that. He could definitely win this fight. So I think he should be patient, don't get aggressive and get reckless. Be patient, even get the decision, but show off your striking. I think he's a better striker than Jeff Neal. I think Jeff Neal should steal the attention. He's a favorite. People know more about Ian Garry. And Jeff Neal's been stuck around these rankings for a while now. So he should crack Gary's chin, just like Kenan Song did, and utilize his takedown defense. He is one of the best, around 90% in takedown defense. He can stuff Garry on the feet and then bring the game to Garry instead of letting Garry dominate him. And now another huge fight in the middleweight division between Robert the Reaper Whittaker versus Paulo the Eraser Costa. And obviously both of these guys are coming off skids, where Whittaker lost to Duplessis, an embarrassing loss. First time in his career he got beat by a big underdog, and then Paulo Costa has pulled out of so many fights by now. He was supposed to be on 294 at first and canceled after an elbow injury, but has been almost known for pulling out of fights now. And they're both strikers in their early 30s. and Whittaker's goal is going to be embarrass Costa just like Duplessis did to him and move back for a title shot in the middleweight division. And he wants to make this an exciting fight. I think Whittaker is still a great fighter. He says he was hurt for the Duplessis fight. We may never know, but he did get knocked out really bad. And I think Costa just needs to get to the octagon. He's pulled out of so many fights. Some people might even think he'll get cut if he doesn't fight. But once he gets to the octagon, it's his fight to win. He is the underdog, but I think he should follow his formula, show off his power, and force another brutal fight on the feet. It will probably go right to the end if one of them doesn't get knocked out, but I think it'll be a bloody fight and a very exciting fight at that. And now a huge fight for the main event for the featherweight championship between Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Ilya El Matador Topuria. A huge fight between the younger challenger and the older champion. And Volk is the slight favorite, but he is coming off 2 losses against Islam, trying to move up for the lightweight belt. But people cannot forget the reign Volk has had at featherweight. He's been dominant for so long now, destroying anyone challenging him, just like Max Holloway, who looked unbeatable in the division. And Volk was the pound-for-pound #1 guy for a year or two before Islam beat him. And he's 13-2 to Topuria's 6-0, and Topuria is the 3rd-ranked challenger in the featherweight division. And I think Volk has to beat Father Time. He knows it. He made a whole advertisement about it.
Volkanovski too old. Don't make a headline out of anything these days, huh? It's ridiculous. All this talk about the over 35 curse, it's nonsense.
Champions above the age of 35, which Volk is, do not have a good track record against younger challengers, and I think he should test Topuria across all levels. Try and take him down, see where his weaknesses are, go for the stand-up, and you can also just rush him and attack him. Topuria does have good striking defense, but he's very, very cocky, and I think Volk is going to want to preserve the featherweight run here as long as he possibly can, and maybe stay here and not move up to lightweight again. And I think Topuria can't get too cocky. Obviously, he's been so arrogant online, which is things I like. He's already calling himself the champion, making stories about being the champion. I think he's going to go to knock out Volk. I think Volk looked weaker against Islam, especially getting knocked out in the second fight. He's going to capitalize on that and attack Volk. He sees his weaknesses. He sees he's vulnerable now. He's probably going to go for a knockout. He might get caught himself, but he's going to go out swinging, and he can begin a new era in the featherweight division.
Said you're old.
Huh?
Said you're too old.
That prick. I'm gonna reply. Dear Scallywag, just wait until I get my hands on you.
And then taking a look at the prelims, this is a great card, definitely better than 297, but going from the bottom, Barlow has a great highlight reel. Oban Elliott versus Val Woodburn is a great fight right in the early prelims. Woodburn went through a fairly memorable loss to Bo Nickel, and Elliott is a huge Welsh prospect in the UFC. Nakamura versus Carlos Vera, great fight. Justin Tafa versus De Lima, another great fight. And Lemos versus Dern. Lemos went off a terrible loss at 292, but she really showed her heart, and Dern is also losing from Andrade, so that will be another great fight on the prelims. And now we're going over my past picks, and I had a great track record to start from 294 to 296. Obviously, 297 was not my best work. A lot of bad fights, like Malone losing to Neal Magny at the end really hurt. But I still have a 3-1 record for Lock of the Night and 11-7-1 in my main card picks, so I am trustworthy. I'm way above 50%, but we're going to try and get that number back up. And UFC 297 was the first time I picked below 500, but think about it this way, Ted Williams hit 350 and he's a Hall of Famer, so I think you guys should be thinking a little bit harder about this before judging me here. And now for my official predictions. Starting at the bottom of the card, I'm going with the first underdog, Kopylov versus Fluffy Hernandez. I think his knockout power is good. He's looked like a good prospect against a little bit more seasoned Hernandez, so I think he will get the win there. And then Merab versus Cejudo. I think Cejudo is a little old, and Merab has been so dominant recently. I think he's one of the best bantamweights. His takedowns are so good, so I think he will get the win there, probably by decision if I'm guessing, based off his pure amount of takedowns attempted. And then Ian Garry versus Jeff Neal. I'm going with Ian Garry. He is the favorite, but a lot of people have turned on him. I do like Jeff Neal. He did great against Rakhmonov, but I think Ian Garry has great striking. It might surprise people. I think that will either be a third-round knockout or a decision win. And then Whittaker versus Costa. I am going to give it to Whittaker. A lot of people like Costa here too. I do too. But I think Whittaker really was not showing his best against Duplessis. I think he still has a lot in the tank left. And I think we might see him go back to his prime form. And then the main event, Volkanovski versus Topuria. A lot of people like the Topuria underdog here. It's close, I'll give him that. They're both great strikers, but I think people are forgetting who Volkanovski is in the featherweight division. He's a dominant fighter. He dominates in all parts of the game. And I think Topuria might get a little cocky, but I'm going to say it's going to be a Volkanovski win on decision. And now the Lucky Punch Award show, where I'm going to be going over a lock of the night, a punchline of the night, which is the story of the night, and then the punch bowl, which is, get it, like punch and, alright, anyway, which will be the best fight with a lot of punching going on. And starting off with the lock of the night. I'm going with Rinya Nakamura against TUF veteran Carlos Vera. He had a bad showing against Brad Katona. He's a big underdog here. Nakamura is the heavy favorite for a reason. He's younger, he's a great wrestler, an Olympian. I think Nakamura is just better in almost every way, and we might even see a submission win here. And then for the punchline of the night, or the story of the night, is Garry and his PR. He needs to save his career here. He lost so many fans and gained so many haters. He went from a McGregor wannabe in many people's eyes, but at 292 he put up a great fight against Magny. I became a fan because of how dominant his performance was, but it will be interesting to see if he can beat a great fighter like Jeff Neal, someone who did lose to Neal Magny. But I think this will be a huge fight for him. He doesn't want to lose and make Neal his new dad.
Future's now, old man.
And then for the final pick, the Punch Bowl, the best fight of the night, I'm awarding this to Volkanovski versus Topuria. I think it will be a huge fight. Both of them are shorter guys, both featherweights, similar builds, similar fighting styles. I think it will be a slugfest. Both of them will be bruised up, if not knocked out, by the end of the fight. And that will conclude my video on UFC 298. I'm so excited to see the card this weekend. And definitely comment down below what you think about my picks, what your picks are, if you agree with me, if you don't agree. Pretty much anything. I would love to talk to you guys. So leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment anything about the video. See you next time.